Hello, my name is Skylar Mason, and this is my Psychtalk for General Psychology 1502 with instructor Jessica Mahoney. Today I'll be discussing the article titled Quantitative Evaluation of the Consciousness Level of Patients in Vegetative State Using Virtual Reality and an Eye Tracking System, a single-case experimental design study by K.T. Parks, S.M. Lee, and K.T. Choi. So what is this study about? The study explores the use of a virtual reality or VR system combined with eye tracking technology to assess the consciousness levels of patients who are in a vegetative state or VS. These patients typically show no signs of awareness but may still retain some cognitive function that isn't easily detectable through traditional methods. The authors wanted to find a more reliable way to measure these functions using innovative tools. So, what is the method in the study? The researchers used a single-case experimental design where 5 patients diagnosed with VS, or vegetable state, were monitored for their eye movements after being presented with visual stimuli through a VR, virtual reality system. These participants were all medically stable, and the study involved close observation of their reactions to various stimuli over 5 consecutive days. The visual stimuli included tasks like visual startle, visual fixation, and visual pursuit, which are intended to assess the patient's ability to respond to and track visual objects. They also included 20 healthy volunteers as controls to create a baseline for comparison. All participants wore a head-mounted display, or an HMD, and had their eye movements tracked using an eye tracking system that measured eyelid distance and eye fixation. Now, the results that showed were promising, particularly in patients B, C, and D, who showed visual responses to the stimuli, suggesting a level of awareness that hadn't been detected by traditional CRS-R, which are coma recovery scale revised methods. Patient C in particular showed a particular visual pursuit, indicating potential movements from a vegetative state to a minimally conscious state, or MCS. In terms of metrics, healthy volunteers showed consistent responses in the form of visual fixation and pursuit, while the VS, or vegetable state patients, showed much lower results. These findings suggest that the VR, or virtual reality, and eye tracking technology may help detect cognitive responses that traditional methods miss. Now, for some critiques of the study, first off, one of the major strengths is the innovative combination of VR and eye tracking to assess consciousness levels, which, to my knowledge, hasn't been applied extensively in clinical settings, and the huge, ethical background of this being a concern. And the method also allows for more nuanced understanding of patient respondness compared to traditional scales. However, one weakness could be the small sample size. Only 5 participants were tested, and this is obviously very minimal, which limits the generalizability of the findings. It also is worth noting that the experiment relied heavily on patients' ability to physically respond, which could have been influenced by the other medical factors not accounted for, like muscle tone or eye movement limitations due to neurological damage. Additionally, the accuracy of the eye tracking system itself could have been a concern. The study required perfect calibration and would not have been valid if the system failed to capture the patient's eye movements correctly though the researchers did take steps to ensure validity by repeating tests when necessary. Another critique relates to the fact that VS patients tend to show variability in their consciousness levels. A patient might show a brief response on one day, but not the next. This inconsistency makes it challenging to make definitive conclusions about their awareness. I also wanted to add why this study is important because I particularly found it extremely interesting. And it's really important because it opens new doors for how we think about consciousness in patients with severe brain injuries. Traditional scales like the CRS-R are helpful, but they may miss out on subtle signs of awareness that technology can better detect. The integration of VR and eye tracking could become a new standard in assessing consciousness levels, offering more accurate, real-time method of observation. So to kind of wrap up all of that information, the study by Park, Lee, and Choi contributes to our understanding of consciousness in vegetative state patients. It shows that with the right tools like VR and eye tracking, we can go beyond the surface level and assessments and truly explore the cognitive capacities of patients who seem unresponsive. This could eventually lead to better diagnostic tools and even new treatments to help people in these conditions. I hope this brief overview gives you a better idea of how innovative techniques like virtual reality can contribute to critical areas of medicine, including how we measure and understand consciousness, but also know the limitations that we still are faced and that we have a long way to go. And thank you so much for listening to my video, and I hope that you guys all continue to have a strong ending to your semester. Bye-bye.